Hey, can you hear me? Okay, Andy, you can hear me, correct? And you can see me?
Second.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Excellent. All right. Sorry about
So it's
that.
your end then. Oh, thank
Oh,
God.
it's always on my end. That's always on my end. We are live now. Let me bring everybody in so we can start chatting. But let me get this off the screen there. Hang on a second. I am not a Zoom guy at all, so all this is kind of fucking new to me, dude.
I'm switching between Zoom and Teams and Slack and everything, so no wonder it's broken sometimes.
Oh, I believe it. Let me get this. Yeah. Hang on a sec. We're gonna get a little squash there. Hopefully, people won't mind too much. We look a little weird.
Are you inviting people in here, or are you going in on
They're
Twitch or something?
they're on the they're currently on the God damn it, they're on the stream. So they're on YouTube.
Okay.
They're on watching on YouTube Live.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hi everyone.
Yes, this is Andy. I've never met Andy before, but I'm so glad to be talking with you. I apologize. Let me just get this set up. I apologize, Andy. I don't have a producer,
Right.
and I don't have a DJ.
Central.
I don't have a DJ. You're a DJ. What the fuck? So I go to your website and I'm like, oh, this is going to be some geeky fucking motherfucker like me. And you're not. How? Okay, so let's do a couple things first. So, I've done a lot of interviews. You've probably done a lot of interviews. I can't imagine anything more boring when they like, well, tell us how you got into the fucking business. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, unless you've got something interesting. Like the fact that you're a DJ fascinates me. So you started. Let me give the audience a rough. Tell me if I'm correct here. You started as an artist. You went to Sony. You worked on Primal. You worked on The Getaway. And then after that, you went over to you were a lead on Medieval Resurrection, right? Which was the second Medieval.
Our studio, yeah, we did that. We got a BAFTA for that.
Yeah, no, that's Medieval 2 though, right? Was it called Resurrection in the UK? Because here I think
Resurrection was the PSP remake.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
And
Yeah,
you're also thinking of the remake.
I
which has
hated
recently come out on PlayStation.
I hated the remake, but I loved the first two. In Medieval 2 was a huge God of War inspiration actually. I played the crap out of that. There was a couple mechanics you guys did in that were really inspiring. And then you went to EA and worked on Fast and the Furious.
No, we were Need for Speed.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Need for Speed at EA. And then you went to Slightly Mad to do Project Cars 1 and 2 and now Crossroads.
Yes.
Okay.
And now we're part of the EA family once again.
I did. Oh, that's right, because Codemasters got bought by EA, and you guys are part of Codemasters.
So we've all come full circle.
There you go. Excellent. So, and the DJ thing is just something you do on the side with Red Bull, or it's got nothing to do with your games.
Red Bull Monster. Please get that right. Otherwise
it says Red Bull on your. It says Red Bull on your website. I thought.
It guarantee it does not.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, maybe I'm just drinking my sponsors. You know.
There we go.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so sorry, Monster. So how did that come about?
I grew up in Manchester during the time when dance music was really taking off in the world, and we had one of the best nightclubs in the world, the Hacienda nightclub, which was renowned in England and around the world for encouraging musical acts and dance acts and stuff like that. And it was just part of my DNA that I just loved dance music and things like that. So obviously tried to have a go, when you're young and you try your best at all that kind of stuff, and then went to university and got behind the decks there, and it kind of took off from there, and then it kind of paused for a bit once the proper job, the game creation started, and then recently it all kind of kicked off all over again. And actually during the lockdown and the last year, we've been doing live streams from home and stuff like that. I was literally just turning my decks on and off. Just now there. So
how is that working? Are you getting do people tune into those and watch, and like how does that?
Well, we're all learning, right? You know, at the beginning of last year, we were all learning how to do this. So it started off with live YouTube sets and things like that, and now we do a bit like we do it all for charity.
Okay.
People sign up for this a company called Off Tracks, and basically what they do is for as little as £5 or $5, it actually donates money towards like life-saving medical treatment for
Wow,
whoever
okay.
it may be or whatever, and you get a Zoom invite code, and then you can just join the party and actually not just watch but participate, because you can see everyone's homes, and it's
Right,
almost
right,
like
right.
you're with other ravers and stuff like that. So
Are
yeah,
are
it's
they
really
are
exciting.
they doing the like MDNA and all that stuff at home, and they're kind of getting into? I mean, seriously, I'm wondering, is that part
We
of
don't
the?
ask that kind of
Okay, okay.
there's certainly some people having a very good time,
Can
let's
it? Can
say.
you DJ well on when you're high, or no when you're working? No, no. I'm really don't know that scene. I mean, I'm not a big drug guy. I wonder. I have marijuana.
What
I have
have people
edibles.
told
I have
you about?
edibles right here. So that's all I do, and I like them very much.
So,
But yeah,
so the
yeah. Go ahead.
the English and European, you know, nightclub scene is very, very different to America and Canada. You
Okay.
know, our nightclubs and clubbing, you know, I think we have a bit of a reputation for maybe going to excess sometimes, you know, in our culture. But our nightclubs and our night entertainment, you know, goes on till like 6 in the morning.
Wow. Okay.
Whereas if I were to go to America, as I have done, you know, everything just shuts off like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like
2 o'clock,
like
1 o'clock. Yeah.
2 o'clock, and then that is it. And
Yeah.
everyone drives home because it's more of a kind of bottle service, table service kind of thing.
Right.
In England, we don't do that. We just, you know, and in Europe, we walk to the clubs, we get cabs to the clubs, we stay out till 6 in the morning, and then that's it. So, you know, obviously there is probably something there that is keeping you up until 6 o'clock.
Sure.
But we don't, you know, for someone, you know, I played at 1 in the morning the other day, and I'm a night owl anyway. I don't know about yourself, but I'm up that time anyway, to be honest.
Got it.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I was curious. So, can you say what your passion is at this point? By the way, and if I look over, I do interviews, and I can't. I've walked out on interviews before when when the interviewer is like looking at their phone and stuff. I'm like, are you shitting
This
me?
is over.
Yeah. Well, not because I'm like, oh, I'm a prima donna, but I'm like, why are we doing this if you're not paying attention, right?
No,
But I have a chat over here, and I'm just
Right.
periodically I'll check to make sure if they're asking any questions that I want to
All
ask
good,
you.
all good. No,
Just
go
letting
for
you
it.
know. So, right now you're DJing and you're making video games. Crossroads was the last game you directed. I'm assuming now that you're part of the EA family as well, you're moving on to something new that you haven't announced yet. Do you have a favorite, or you're like, no, man, I do a lot of different things and they're all great?
Well, it's the day job and the night job, right? You know, the day
Okay.
job is my main love. You know, it's the job that I chose as a career and did education for, and ground my way up
Yep.
through the levels, like you were saying, starting as a junior artist, doing, you know, what was my first job? I think it was modeling a brick wall that had physics that it could like get smashed down. Like
Right.
that's my first job, right? And then it turned into environments and cinematics and then UI, and then I kind of got a bit not fed up, but I was noticing that we were making games, or I was constantly having constant discussions with the lead designer on things, and thinking, I love playing games. This is this is the industry I wanted to get into, and I don't believe that this is going to be very good, you know, and that's why I made the switch over to design then. And
Can
have
you
been
say,
ever
and I respect and appreciate if you can't, most normal humans have filters, unlike me, but can you say what game it was that you were starting to really rub up against that frustration?
It's a game that never got released, so yeah, I can quite easily, you know, say that
Like,
it
what
was a
kind of
game
things
that-
were you seeing that you were like, you know, this isn't right, or this doesn't feel
So-
right?
It was a very user interface led game where it was almost like top down crisis management games.
Mhm.
So it's a bit like there's lots of games like that now, like This Is the Police, and there's another game like an emergency kind of department game. I can't remember where it is, where like Theme Hospital, that
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
You know, thing. And it was one of those where it's very UI driven, and I, as the artist, was responsible for making sure that UI was all great, and the term UX didn't even exist in those times. So it was just kind of like, this is where the buttons need to be, and like place them all down. And of course, when I was doing that, I was thinking, well, how big should they be? Like, how prominent does that need to be? And that was linked to the gameplay of it. And here I was having daily arguments with the lead designer, going, well, how do you do that? Like, isn't there an easier workflow for that? Why is it 3 clicks and it should be 1 click? And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare for the user. And here I was trying to make it pretty, but in my mind, I was also trying to make it good for the end user. And that's when I was like, I'm in the wrong job here.
Is that designer still working?
This is a different company. It's
no. I know. I know. I'm wondering if like.
I
okay.
I left that company. So
fair enough. Okay. So, and then you worked on some pretty big hits. I mean, you know, it's fair to say, obviously, that the Need for Speed series is always big. And then Project Cars 1 and 2 were kind of grassroots, but they kind of built into this thing that, you know, that was like a crowdfunded game at first, right? Wasn't the first Project Cars?
Yeah, I mean, the history of it is that we worked on we did Shift 1 and Shift 2, and that's when Electronic Arts had come to us saying, you know, the existing games that the Need for Speed team have been doing are absolutely fantastic. We've got Criterion off there doing Hot Pursuit. We also feel that there's room for more kind of Need for Speeds happening.
Okay.
And the one that we'd like to do is what we see you guys doing, which is this authentic on-the-track racing experience. So on that particular launch, you know, window or years, there was Need for Speed Nitro on the Wii, I believe it was, and there was Hot Pursuit, and then there was Shift, and they were all for different audiences,
right?
And all different teams, all under the same banner. So we did that. We did Shift 1, which was a huge success. I think it was the most the highest rated Need for Speed in a number of years and the best selling Need for Speed in a number of years. Shift 2 just added a whole load more. We added more motorsports, worked with more drivers, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Went even more authentic and stuff like that. And then we'd done test drive Ferrari Racing Legends as well. So we'd basically worked on other people's games. You know, we'd worked on Test Drive, Need for Speed, you know, big franchise titles.
Right.
And we wanted to do our own. We wanted our own IP.
And you guys were Slightly Mad Studios at the time. That was still your company. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And the issue is, of course, as you well know, is that games take a very long time to make, and they cost a lot of money, right? Kickstarter was just in America at that time, and it was really exciting. We were seeing these big titles take off, and obviously things like Star Citizen and things like that have obviously, you know, carried on doing that. Shenmue 3 and things like that have obviously taken that boat and sailed with it. But at the time, it wasn't really as big. And our boss, Ian Bell, you know, was like, well, here we are wanting to make our own IP. We've got a rabid fan base there of racing fans who really want to, we really engage with and are buying our games and think they're fantastic. So we went straight to those people, those fans, and we said, hey, we're going to make our own game here. Who wants to join us? And it was a huge success and garnered a lot of media attention and things like that. And that set us off on the road to Project Cars 1, 2, 3, and where we are today.
So in all of those games, then and are you a car guy? Obviously, I mean, with Shift and with
not as much as some of the other guys in the studio, but I drive like muscle cars and stuff, so I have my little section of the inputs there. Other guys like GT3 or Formula One or classics or historic.
But staying in the sim world, that was comfortable for you. That made sense for you to kind of make games for people who really understood. Okay, so then obviously Crossroads comes along. It's very different. And as a fan of that game, and I want to talk about that a lot because I love that fucking game. But I'm not a sim car guy. Like my favorite racing game of last year was Hot Shot Racing. I don't know if you played it, but it was a kind of Daytona throwback. The drifting was super easy and fun. It's a great fucking game, but nobody who's really into was it Kazunori or something who does Gran Turismo? They'd probably are you shitting me with that thing? But that's what I like, right? But so for you to transition from something that's so sim heavy to something that's so arcadey, I mean, was that conscious on your part, like I wanted to make that move, or it was just like, this is Need for Speed, that's what it needs? Not Need for Speed, Fast and Furious.
It's we always make games for whoever the audience in particular is. So in this particular case, I mean, I play all sorts of games, as I'm sure you do as well. 1 minute I'm playing League of Legends, the next minute I'm playing Overwatch, the next minute I'm playing some indie game that's on Switch, the next minute I'm playing Fortnite co-op with my kid. I'm playing everything, right? With Project Cars, that series, we were going to Gamescom, we were going to E3, we were going to sim racing expos, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the guys there were wearing VR helmets with the seats and the wheels. And we were the #1 racing esport for a while. You know,
Awesome.
like that was absolutely fantastic. And I was super into that. You know, I'm into esports anyway, but
Yeah.
you know, I was super into that because that for me is a kid trying to get as close as they can
Right.
to the real thing without even being able to have a driving license or having ever sat behind the wheel. So that
Right.
was a natural fit. That was absolutely a natural fit. On the other side, I'm remembering with got rose tinted glasses, Chase HQ and
love Chase HQ.
and
Yeah.
Pursuit Force
Yep.
and Burnout Dominator and things like that, and playing GTA 5, you know, sliding around corners and things like that. And in the case of Fast and Furious, you know, Universal came to a bunch of companies and they said, we want to make a Fast and Furious game. Please pitch your idea for it. You know, and I'm a massive fan of the franchise.
Me
anyway.
too, yeah.
I've got the movies behind me. I've got the Lego car behind me. All that kind of stuff. I'm a huge fan, and for me, I know that franchise pretty damn well, and therefore the pitch that we put together was, we want to tell this. You know, we want to basically take you through all 8 movies from a different perspective and accelerate you from, you know, nighttime street racing kind
Right.
of person through to vehicular, you know, strike force team.
Right.
You know,
Right.
End of it.
Chasing a missile. Yeah.
Yeah, and we couldn't do that by, you know, just putting you in Dom shoes or giving you like a team selection menu or having a top-down map and all that kind of stuff. We had to tell you a story.
Right.
So we put that pitch together. Universal were like, yeah, absolutely, you've got it. Like everybody else had literally just pitched a car game.
Right.
So they were like, oh, we're going to have Brian's car, we're going to have Han's car,
Right.
and you upgrade them and do like pink slip racing and things like that. It's like, yeah, that would have been great back in 2002,
Right.
when the franchise was about that stuff. But now they're Mission Impossible. Now they're Marvel movies.
Right,
essentially,
that's right.
With cars, right? So Universal were like, brilliant. You've got the job. You guys go away and do that. What do you need? What story do you want to tell? And we just thought about the audience. We knew the audience. You know, we know that Vin has got 100 million fans on his Facebook. You know, and that is way more than the usual sales you would get from a average game, right? So we knew we couldn't just, you know, target like the however many million it is that Need for Speed sells, or however many million that Forza Horizon sells.
Right.
You know, we had to target the larger thing. So the game is aimed at, you know, it is aimed at people who love the franchise, people who have maybe never even picked a controller up before, people who just like going fast without ever using the brake button.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, those kind of things. People who just want to turn their brain off for a bit and just go, holy crap, like 1 minute I'm racing a train, the next minute I'm trying to shoot a hovercraft, the next minute I'm doing this, the next minute it's different every mission. And
so that and again, that is exactly what I adore about this fucking game. Okay, and people would, when I raved about this game online, people were like, well, Jaffe, what you really want is Need for Speed Payback, because they do that, but they do it at a level of polish and production and excellence that this game doesn't touch. And so I'm like, okay, well, I have EA Play, let me try that. And and I tried it, and I really didn't. I mean, it was nice, it was very well made, but I'm like, it's open world, it's upgrade your car. I played for 2-3 hours. All I was doing was racing. So if there are things like chasing trains and carrying a giant, you know, whatever that ball was that was kind of like the safe in the movie.
The boats,
I'm like, okay, if that's in there, and I believe these people when they tell me that kind of stuff is in there. It took me 3 hours and I was done. I'm like, I've played this game. Right. So I loved it, and it sounds like you guys were laser targeted on the kind of people that loved it. So maybe it's just a perception, because clearly the media savaged this fucking game. They hated this fucking game, and the audience who probably didn't even play it, at least on the internet, the ones that comment and stuff, are like, this is a piece of shit. And I'm like, you guys are fucking morons. The question becomes, did you find your target audience? Like, would I be surprised, and would the audience be surprised to know that, dude, Next Gen Magazine or Edge Magazine hated what was that fucking game that was huge in America like 15 years ago? It was like a hunting game that did really great at Walmart and Target and kind of sold to a very specific Deer Hunter. Right. Yeah. But gamers were like, "Oh, that's crap," right? I mean, I would love the story to be that, yeah, Jaffe, this was not for those people, but this game did gangbusters at Walmart, and people, purchased this game.
Exactly.
I mean, can you, without giving figures, are you guys happy with the actual sales of it?
Yeah, exactly. Initially, no, even before launch, pardon me, and approaching like the review strategy and which influencers we were going to go to and things like that, like the Metacritic score was never an important issue.
Okay.
We knew that, a lot of our players, the people we're targeting out, they're not even going to look at that. Yeah, right. They're going to go to Walmart, they're going to see it and go, "Oh my God, a Fast and Furious game. I didn't even know one existed." Yeah. Or they're going to watch Vin going on Jimmy Fallon or something like that, and he's going to talk about the upcoming movie, and they go, "Oh, I'm quite hyped for something." Go to the Xbox store and go, "Oh, there's a Fast and Furious game. Like, brilliant." Right. And then grab it. Right. So, our approach obviously, includes, certain reviewers, certain influencers, certain people that we give the game to in advance and all that kind of stuff. But it was never a, "Oh my God, we need to hit like 85% Metacritic in order for the game to success," things like that. When we launched the game, obviously it was a slight, shock, that it was lower than what we perceived it to be. But then equally, we watched the YouTube streams and we watched the tweets that we're getting, and the fans, the people that we aim the game at, are loving it. There's been some kind of heartwarming, heartbreaking, stories of people who go, "Oh my God, like I didn't realize that one of the main characters is non-binary, just like me,"
Right.
Like, great to see this kind of representation on screen, all that kind of stuff. Or people who have fallen in love with Vienna and Cam and are like, "Oh my God, are they going to turn up in Fast 9? Like, really excited for that."
Interesting. Okay.
Because remember, this is an origin story. So this
I was going to ask you about that, because it was a little weird that Vin Diesel and you had like Tyrese and Michelle Rodriguez, but they were almost like, they weren't cameos, but they were almost cameos. I mean, was that intentional, or was Vin Diesel like, "Look, you guys got me for 2 days. That's all I can give you." I mean,
So Vin and his entourage and stuff like that were instrumental throughout the entire thing. They had approval on absolutely everything, down to what clothes they're wearing, all that stuff. Vin's a great guy. He was absolutely involved in the entire thing, and if he wasn't happy, it would never have come out. So no, that's not quite correct, But our approach to the story was, we're telling the origin story of these brand new people, and that is to take them from the streets and through to this superhero vehicular force,
right?
And the two people in it are archetypes for Dom and Brian. One is the kind of like fatherly figure who always looks back on the past and has something there and takes control of situations. The other is the more impulsive, like jumping into situations, a chip on the shoulder kind of thing. So it's an Obi-Wan and Anakin kind of dichotomy there, and by the end of it, they're like Jedi Knights together,
right.
So everyone, all the characters that we chose for it were there specifically to bring out those characteristics from them and to give them conflict to fight over. So Letty, for example, she doesn't get to do enough in the movies, in my particular case, and also the movies are full of bald men, and we wanted to maybe even the score a little bit, so we wanted to make sure Letty had her moment to shine, and she does something obviously in the story which causes conflict with our two characters, and therefore so that's her role in there. So then she has quite a big role. Dom is a more elusive kind of, he always says the last word, and then like the music swells and then it cuts. He comes in with the solution when no one else could have thought about it. So we did use him sparingly for that cause. Otherwise, we'd just be following him. All the game would be is just like, Dom says we need to go over here. Dom says we should do this. Dom says we should do that, and you're just following them, as opposed to our characters coming to that decision-making process themselves and making their own course there. So everyone was chosen for a very specific reason.
So I want to get back to the game, but I got to ask you about the story a little bit now that we're talking about it. Okay, number one, so the non-binary thing is interesting, and it might be interesting to the audience because, I have, you know, I think in the games I've worked on, there have been a couple of LGBT characters, but you know, it was like one was Twisted Metal Black, and it was really, no one talked about things like that back then in terms of it being a thing or it not. But now, anytime a lot of gamers hear, oh, we have a non-binary character, we have a trans character, we have a lesbian character, whatever. I know those are all very different things. I'm saying along that LGBT spectrum or categorization. A lot of people will go, oh, that's forced diversity. I would love to hear your take on, I would be stunned if Bandai Namco came into you guys and said, we demand a non-binary character. I have to assume that's something that you guys were like, we feel compelled to write this. I mean, what was that? Can you just share with the audience that? Because a lot of times people don't understand. They literally think there's these messages from on high of like, you must put diversity in your game.
Yep, no, absolutely. You know, the choices for casting simply came from which actor do we believe could bring these characters that had been written to life best. So when we were writing the character Vienna, you know, it was a character who was very soft-spoken, very strong, always was looking back over the past, had a bit of a grudge and some kind of baggage that she was hanging on to. And we cast the net very, very wide. It didn't matter what race or ethnicity they were. And the person that we came across was Sonequa Martin Green, who was starring in Star Trek Discovery at that particular time. We were like, oh my God, she's amazing. She fits the bill absolutely perfectly. So we tried as best as we could to get Sonequa, and obviously did. For the character of Cam was the polar opposite. Cam was this instinctive person who was jumping in, who would be quite snipey with their comments and everything, who would jump into situations before they'd thought, and was around the same age as the other character of Vienna. So we were again casting the net very, very wide to try and find an actor that would fit that. And I was watching Billions at the time, and Asia Kate Dillon, who plays Taylor Mason in that show, could cut through with a really barbed comment amongst that room of a male-dominated, business there. And I was like, wow, I think Asia's the one. The fact that they identify as non-binary wasn't even an issue and isn't explicitly referenced in the dialogue, right, except for the pronouns that are used.
Right.
You know, it's not a character defining thing, their gender identity. It's the fact that they are who they are, and the diversity came from, we chose a great actor. Right. Not that we cast the net and said, oh no, please only find us people from the LGBTQ community.
Right.
For this.
Right. Okay.
No,
that's always been the experience when I have worked with people who have been accused of that, or I've been accused of that. It's like, I'm sure there are companies that do that, but I've never experienced them, and I don't know anyone that's ever experienced them. Right. I do have to ask, though, not about gender, but about sexuality. When I was playing, and again, it's so weird because I'm so happy to actually discuss the story, because most people are, the only thing I didn't like about the story is I couldn't skip the cutscenes, and I don't understand that. Explain to me the design philosophy behind not letting me skip a cutscene.
So well, I guess we can talk about, so the game is obviously, it's something that doesn't really exist, right? It is a linear, story-based, vehicular heist action game. Yeah. You can't say that about, Burnout, or Need for Speed, or Forza Horizon, or any. I
don't think you can even say that about Need for Speed Payback, which everyone's telling me this is analogous to. So
yeah, you can say that about Uncharted and other, Last of Us. Not that we are in the same pantheon. Mm-hmm. Please do not put this on the internet and make those clickbait headlines of that. Yeah. But those games are linear path, story-based action adventure games, things like that. And we knew, therefore, as I'm sure you know as well, only 30% of people actually finish games. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you have as much of a backlog of games in your Steam library or on your PS Plus account, that we knew we wanted the story to be quite short. You know, the inability to skip the cutscenes was because that's where we were putting all the emotion. That's where the driving is the bit that you're used to, the fast-paced stuff, and we knew therefore that the without the emotion behind it of like why these people are doing these things, the ability to skip them, therefore, all you're left with is like a point-to-point like delivery mission or a chasing a thing, shooting a thing.
But that was a conscious choice on your part for the overall effect of the product.
Absolutely. Once you finish the mission and you go to replay it, you can skip the cutscene after.
Oh, okay. Yep. I bought the game the minute I finished it, and I plan on replaying it like once a year. I mean, it's really, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm your biggest fan or not, but I adored it. So one more question on the story. So there's a scene at the beginning, and this has nothing to do with gender, but I was just curious if this was intentional. Where, and I apologize, but I forget the names of the two main female characters. Or sorry, the two main.
Get it right.
I know. Oh, I got yelled at the other day. I'm like, dude,
you'll be in the comment, flamed in the comments.
I assure you, it's not intentional. It just takes a little time to adjust, you know. But it's totally respectful and necessary. But those two characters, I was like, are they in a relationship? Like, is that? Am I the only one that thought that? Like, am I supposed to think that? And then one of the characters gets out of the truck, and that character's into this guy character, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I thought these two people in the truck were in a relationship. Is that intentional, or it's like, dude, no one thought that, you're a fucking moron? I mean, what?
How do I politely say this? I mean, if that is what you thought at the time, that's great.
I want to know if that's what you wrote.
It wasn't the intention. No.
Got it. Okay.
The intention was always that, you know, Vienna was always kind of have this kind of third wheel in the relationship. You know, that's why Sebastian was there. He was supposed to be the third wheel that was causing the conflict between the two friends who are supposed to be like siblings.
Okay.
Supposed to
you know, I'm from Alabama. See, so that may be the problem. That may be the disconnect.
Yeah, the point was they're supposed to be equals.
Okay.
You know, they are supposed to be equal partners in this business, in life, all that kind of thing. And Sebastian is the one who's kind of in the middle. And from the decisions that Vienna made in the past that Cam doesn't agree with, all that kind of stuff, essentially that level playing field has now turned into Vienna being the mum and Cam being the child. Okay. And the whole game is about that chip on the shoulder, like Scrappy Doo, kind of like, let me out of right. And it's like, let me shine, let me stop treating me like a kid, I think is one of the lines, actually. Like, stop treating me like, let me have my go. And it's actually, of course, Dom and Letty that see the ability within Cam and therefore give them the opportunity to show that they can do. And then Vienna, of course, in the dialogue, in the cutscenes and things, like, oh, you know, wow, yeah, they've got more credit than should give them more credit than they deserve here. And of course, by the end of it, they're back on that level playing field. Right. No, it was always supposed to be
siblings. Okay, and so all right. So back to the game. So when I played the game, I mean, and I know you know this, and I'm just curious: was it time? Was it budget? Was it like? It is one of my favorite games of the last year and a half. Unironically, I genuinely love this game, but it's a very janky game. I mean, right? I mean, would you agree? I mean, it doesn't look very good. Right. It controls great in certain environments. In other environments, I think it's fair to say the car physics and the width of the roads and all the traffic, it's really weird. It's like Slightly Mad has made brilliant car games before, and these cars drive great, but only in certain levels. I mean, was it just like, dude, we only had 8 months to make this? I mean, what? Or are you like, dude, what are you talking about? This is a beautiful. I mean, I'm just curious because I'm not going to kiss anybody's ass. I love the game, but I'm also not a moron. You can't tell me you don't look at this game and go, visually, it's not competitive with 2020, 2021 games, correct?
So I mean, visually, we went through so much. You know, our previous games have been circuit-based racing games.
Right.
Yeah, we've had a few games which are point-to-point levels, but from I don't know whether this is too nerdy to get into or not. But from a game from the way the assets are created and then held in memory and things like that. Like all those levels are held in memory all at the same time
Yes.
on our previous games, right? For Fast and Furious,
which thank you, by the way, because some racing games, oh, I fucked up, I hit a rail, let me hit restart. Okay, you got to load. Fuck
Right.
off. Though, I mean, that's I love it when racing games do that. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But with Fast and Furious, you know, we've got 10-minute long or 7-minute long point to point, you know, streaming all the way across New Orleans kind of levels. And even though it's on a linear path, I know there are slight diversions, slight shortcuts you can do, and things like that. You can still get up onto the freeway in New Orleans, and you can look all the way over there. There's buildings and houses and the river and all, and industry and distance and all that kind of stuff. And therefore, we had to switch to a streaming technology, bit of technology in there, things there. That's not to say that the artist then like took a day off. You know, they were still making assets. You know, there were, you know, amazing quality. You know, really good texel density. Again, probably too nerdy to get into all that kind of stuff.
I don't think so, but yeah.
You know, and it's the same car team making exactly the same cars for our Project Cars games that are doing it here as well. Of course, you know, we knew we were only going to be outside of car for this game. You know, chase cam.
Right.
So you know, cockpits and things like that. You know, don't have the level of fidelity that we done on our previous games. Fine, you know, we have to make some savings there and things like that. But yeah, it was really the kind of move to streaming open world tech that maybe didn't give the perception of this was coming out after, you know, Project Cars 2 or Project Cars 1 previously, where we'd have, you know, beautiful. I remember our trailers for that looking absolutely stunningly.
Yeah,
kind of stuff. So you know, that's where that probably comes from. When it comes to like handling and stuff, you know, we did so many focus group tests on this stuff, and we played it, and as I said, the game's not really for us, right? So we had kids playing it, you know, we had our nieces and nephews and your own kids and things like that, and we had people who had never picked up a controller who literally kind of like held the controller like that when they picked it up for the first time, you know, and that's not like a derogatory thing. It was literally we would love those people who love the movies to be able to pick this up and have a blast playing it, and therefore we knew the controls had to be arcadey, you know. So and I mentioned a few before, you know, that we looked at like Burnout Dominator and Paradise and GTA 6, the ability to just drift around a corner. You know, we even had a bit of a fight between how to handbrake, because you know I hit the A button, you know, when I use the handbrake, because I'm used to the sim racing games where we've implemented things like rallycross and sideways sliding, and you kind of undrift and you like pump the handbrake a little bit to initiate the back, the back coming out. I'm talking in a very sim way, so you lose grip and all that kind of stuff. And then we wanted to translate that into the game, and I was doing it all the time, and I was having a whale of time. And then other people were coming along, going, just hitting the wall straight ahead and going, oh, just bouncing off corners. I was like, what's going on? Like, I think it's fantastic. And other people were like, this is awful. So we had to go back and forth on this stuff. And in the end, I succumbed, and I was like, all right, fine. Let me not use the handbrake, and I'll take it. I'll take it for the team. And actually that turned out great, because when we went to the focus group test and things like that, everyone could suddenly, all of a sudden, pull off these long drifts. You know, two things that were our KPIs there were for, tech speak, the key things that we check the performance on in the game, were, there's a roundabout in Barcelona, and we were like, can you do a full donut around the entire thing, just like going around it with the smoke coming out and just feeling awesome, feeling like, oh my god, I feel like Vin Diesel, that kind of thing. And then the other was, can you go down the freeway, hit the handbrake to just initiate a J-turn, and then start driving backwards, because we wanted that kind of maneuverability. And
you can do both those things in the game you shipped? Yeah, see, I'm glad I'm going to be playing this again, because maybe it's because it's weird. It must be really hard to make this kind of game, because everybody does come to it with their own vocabulary. Like, I'm not a sim guy, but I'm a total arcade racing guy, but I'm a very hardcore, and I've been playing games for over 40 years. And so I'm in this weird, awkward phase of like, I know very much about games, but I know very little about sims. So I had a real hard time driving those cars, unless I was in like the desert, which I loved the desert chase, because I could skid around and drift, and it felt great. But that's fascinating, the fact that you're tuning it for a very different audience. and they were able to do those things. That's fantastic.
And there's a few other things like, all cars are around the same speed because, again, in the movies, you've got bloody, you've got like 18-wheeler trucks next to Lamborghinis, next to muscle cars trying to escape a submarine, and they're all in perfect formation driving away from it. And of course, with multiplayer, we wanted to make sure that not you weren't left behind because you're in the slowest car. You always had a chance to get up ahead. And then the last thing was, even though we've got like these big, heavy SUVs and Jeeps and things like that, we still wanted to be able to have fun in those. We didn't want them to feel like, oh my God, they're just like really hard to turn and things like that. Because again, with some of the twistier streets and stuff like that, we didn't want you feeling like you were just like, and then doing like an Austin Powers, like 50 million point turn to get around. So we had to make sure that they all handled.
And by the way, I get that reference. I don't know if the audience gets the reference, but I fucking get it. Keep going. though. Sorry.
Yeah. So, it was really a lot of tuning was done for the story initially. So, the width of the corners and things like that were tuned for like the Barcelona night race and things that you could slide around, hit a corner specifically because you're still like a bit of a, not a loser, but you're kind of a novice driver still at that point. So we wanted you to hit the barrier.
Really? You designed the tracks around where the character was in development?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't care. You seem like a mild-mannered guy, and good for you, and good on you for being raised well, blah, blah, blah. But if I had done that much work, and that's I mean, I'm not even fucking with you. That is fascinating. I've never heard such a deep dive into we're designing our racing tracks, not just around fun, but around the narrative structure of where the character is in their fucking arc. And you put this out, and these motherfucking critics are like, this is a piece of shit. I would be like, man, go fuck yourselves.
So think of it very. I'll run through it very quickly. So the opening Athens level, really wide roads, and you're playing Dom and Letty, and there's barely any traffic on there at all, and the roads are more curvy.
Yeah.
A few. The opening Barcelona mission, you're on hills with like barely any cars on the road again, and it's big sweeping things there. When you get to the Barcelona street race, it's quite tight and the pressure's on, and you may hit the corners, and you're frustrated and you want to win, because this guy has put a mark on your head and all that kind of stuff. By the end of the game, you're a superhero. So again, there's not as much traffic on the roads. You're on the freeways, remember, by the end of the game. Yeah. You're barreling through things. Things should be the cars are naturally a bit quicker as well. So yeah, it's all done on purpose, basically.
So what does that feel like? I mean, I know you're saying you guys made this for a different audience. So was it just like water off a duck's back? You didn't care when the critics savaged this thing? Because it was great to begin with. It sounds like your focus groups liked it. And then you also put a lot of love and thought and care into a lot of aspects of this. And again, it's not the critic's job to give you a good review or an attaboy just because you worked hard. But at the same time, there's such a lack of appreciation and a lack of acknowledgement of this that, I mean, I know with Drawn to Death, which was a big failure critically and for the most part commercially, there was a lot of nuance and thought and depth put into that, and it really always annoyed me that most critics didn't even give it 20 minutes to think about that stuff. Are you just you're just like, whatever, move on with my fucking day, we just got bought by EA, go fuck yourself? Or is it more like, I mean, I was painful for me to deal with that. What was your response?
I mean, no, because we knew going in, we knew from the outset, we're not going to have an overworld map. It's not a pick your event and jump around the map, and we're not earning XP. We're not upgrading the cars because all the cars in the movies are super powered, heroes anyway. So we knew in advance that it goes against the tide. It goes against the Forza Horizons and the Need for Speed Heats and all that kind of the world. But it's fine. That they're there for that audience. That's great. If you want that experience, like you said, go and have fun there. They do a fantastic job of that kind of stuff. So we knew we were going against the tide anyway. So of course, focus group tests and all that kind of stuff come back as like, oh, we wish it was open world, and we're like, okay, well, it's not. So sorry, it might not be for you. But then when the other feedback comes back of like, or you see people's faces when they're doing it, like whoa, and all that kind of stuff, and the YouTube videos we've seen and all that, and the stories that people have told on Twitter, we know we've got that audience. And when I go onto like the game on a weekend and play multiplayer, and I see everyone's got the meta now, they know the missions, they know how to do things, they're finding good team compositions. We've buffed and nerfed a bunch of different cars and classes over the years, over the months. We've added more DLC. I think we've got 80 to 90% of the movie cars in the game now.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And a number of like hot patches and things like that we've done. When I see that, and I see fans, you know, unlocking Han's car from Fast 9, which isn't even out yet,
Right.
and they've painted it on, you know, they've painted it with their livery on the side, and they're stamping down their, you know, their portrait stamp that you can get in the game and things like that. That's when you go, okay, it's worked, like, because there's an audience here who are loving it and having fun with it and all that kind of stuff. At the time, yes, of course, it's difficult to read, you know, read reviews or whatever it may be, but like, you know, you've just got to kind of, as long as we knew in advance that that was kind of going to be the, you know, the atmosphere,
Right.
it's not as harsh as it being a complete shock, you know.
Right.
So,
okay, so did you guys find enough? Because okay, how do I phrase this? So I love all kinds of games, all kinds of movies, all kinds of books. I'm all over the place, right? And I love a lot of things that sometimes people don't like. Like I love the show Supergirl, unironically. It's not a good show.
Melissa Benoist, she was one of the people we actually wanted to cast.
Okay, so, you're a fucking moron, because you could have met her and she would have fallen in love with you, and then I would have stolen her from you. But that would have been great. Yeah, I love her and I love the show. But and I also love, you know, highfalutin stuff, whatever. But what I wonder about in games, unlike in movies and in television, there seems to be enough of an audience to go around where you can make things for across the spectrum of sort of not quality, but sort of, is it kind of a TV dinner, or is it a 4-star Michelin dining experience, right?
Yep.
With games,
this is a bag of popcorn if we're going to use that.
But is there a big enough audience out there for a $60 game that is, you know, can that sustain? Can you make games just for that audience at $60 price point with a budget that I assume was not small when you have, you know, Vin Diesel and all that, and you guys that are a big good team? Yep. I'm not asking you if you were profitable, but were you profitable? Right?
I mean, I can't go into any of the business stuff. You know,
right, sure. I understand.
Many shareholders and all that kind of stuff. That
Let me ask it this way then. Let me ask it this again. Do you think that audience is able to be served, and is a smart move for a developer or a publisher to chase that audience at that price point? Or would you maybe think about the cost of the game in the future?
So, I mean, cost or the price?
Either one.
Okay. I mean, so, you know, thinking of it this way, you know, the one thing that, you know, maybe has slightly disappointed myself is that, you know, people are just playing story mode and that's it.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, there is 6 months worth of multiplayer progression in the game there that, you know, maybe we underestimated the number of people who actually did want to jump online. So obviously we hear a lot of like, I played the story mode, it was good, but it's very short.
Okay.
You know, and we're like, yeah, but quickly jump into online. Like that's where all the fans are. That's where they're all unlocking things and XP and Fast Family album that we put in there, full of secrets and behind the scenes trivia and all that kind of stuff. And unlockable liveries and cars and sprays and neons and underglow and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So absolutely, you know, is it worth $60 in that respect? Well, yes, because there's other games that do exactly the same thing. Yeah. But when it's a decision made by a fan who has no intention of ever going online, it feels like I haven't quite got as much for my money as I should have potentially. But as a whole, considering how long the game took to make, the amount of stuff that we threw in there, the size of the team, the 6 months of multiplayer, the story mode, the additional extras, the season pass of all the DLC that we added post-launch, all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's not unreasonable to say that the correct decision was made there.
Okay.
But looking back, would we do things differently? Yes, we probably would.
Okay, so I'm gonna, if you're okay, answering some questions from the audience. I would love to have them in. I want to ask one more question.
Yeah.
And I have no problem. I'm really not trying to poke. I've been in interviews where I'm like, dude, I can just tell you I'm not going to answer that. But I'm not asking this because I'm trying to get at financials or what you made or anything like that. I'm asking because as somebody who designs games from time to time still at times, I don't know if I'm making any more games, but at the moment, I don't know what I'm going to do about it.
You're on a second hiatus.
Yeah, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But as someone who absolutely longs to be able to make things, if I were to get back into games that are more in the kind of like Roger Corman school of video games, where it's like it's a fun idea, it's really cool, it's got a great high concept. We're not trying to compete with Naughty Dog. We're not trying to, it's just fucking fun and it's cool and it's popcorn. I'm trying to understand, is there an audience for that in games that is meaningful enough that it's worth chasing? So do you feel good about serving that audience? If EA that now owns Slightly comes to you guys and says, chase that audience again, are you like, yes, we know they're out there? Or is it like that's the business of buying video games is very different than the business of like renting a movie or watching a movie on Netflix for fun with your friends on a Friday night that's just cheesy and stupid?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, and I say nowadays as in even like the last, the last 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, or even the last year, there are so many statistics and return on investment, spreadsheets that get created, so much market research that could be done, so much analytics from the previous games that could be done and stuff like that, we always make our games for our specific audiences. So Project Cars is for our extremely passionate sim racing guys and girls who are, they love motorsports and they just want it to be as authentic as possible. Our other games, the Walking Dead game that we made on mobile, that's for the fans of the TV show, the fans of the comic books. We went straight to the source there and got the comic book artists and Robert Kirkman and all that stuff to work on it too. So we're always making it for the fans, back to when I worked on 24, back in the day, making it for the fans there as well. So that's great. You've just got to know that there are enough fans to make it worthwhile. And of course, nowadays, you do much more cost analysis and things like that on it. During the creation of our other games, though, we've made the games knowing how long games take to make, how long cars take to make, tracks they take to make, features take to make, things like that, and then release them. And through the crowdfunding model, that has really helped.
Right.
Because
exactly.
Otherwise, exactly, you're making games in the dark most of the time. With crowdfunding, however, you're making it alongside the people that are donating money towards the actual cause. So there's always a level of confidence, therefore, that they are getting what they want because you're communicating with them, they're engaging with them. Sometimes you're giving a free demo, early access, whatever it may be. And that still continues on to these days now. So we have Steam early access. Like you have 10-hour trials with EA Play. You have Steam summer sales. You have Kickstarter weekend only trials and all that kind of stuff. You have free to play closed betas. There's so many more ways now to make sure that the game you are making is what the actual fans want.
Right.
That you can mitigate some of that risk of making a game and hoping that there is an audience out there for it. Actually, if you can put it out there as often as you can and get feedback on it, you'll be guaranteed that you are making a game which is what the audience actually want.
Okay. Are you ready as a designer, as a director? Are you ready to move away from cars? Like, what do you want to get into a different genre eventually, or are you like, dude, I'm drive or die always? I mean, what's that?
I mean, obviously, we joined with Codemasters, who are, have this vision of making the best possible racing games out there with the Dirt and Dirt Rally and F1 and Grid, franchises, all throughout this pandemic, we've released Project Cars 3, we've released Fast and Furious Crossroads, we've soft launched Project Cars Go, our mobile game as well. So we are knee deep in racing,
Right.
and now being part of Electronic Arts as well. I can't talk too much about that, but equally they have vested interest in racing as well, with the real racing games and the Need for Speed game that Criterion are working on as well. So,
but you personally, as a creative, you're into that.
For the foreseeable future, we are definitely working on racing games.
Gotcha.
As a personal,
that's what I'm curious about. Yeah,
as a personal thing, every racing game we've ever made has had influences from other genres in there. Okay. So when we did the Need for Speed, otherwise the racing genre gets stale and boring and all that kind of stuff. So when we did the Need for Speed Shift game originally, we were one of the first people to get you back behind the cockpit. Like, no one was in the cockpit view before, because it was like this weird, like, widescreen, shuttered view. And we were like, well, we wanted to make it enclosed and cramped and things like that, but we needed you to have the freedom to be able to move. So we added G-forces in there that were linked to braking and accelerating. We put the movement of the camera on the right stick. Like, no one was doing this before. It was just like, before it was just like a shuttered view. And when we crashed, we're always thinking of how do we train you to be a better driver. So we wanted to make sure that when you crashed, I was looking at things like Call of Duty and grenades going off. So when the grenade goes off in Call of Duty, it has that kind of monochrome, that whistle that happens, like kind of like thing.
It goes quiet.
Yeah, it goes quiet, and you're just like, oh my god, like I wish that I don't want that to ever happen again.
Right.
And that's what we did in that particular game. So when you crash there, it was the same kind of thing. You heard the driver go like that. The screen shook and vibrated and went black and white, and you heard the heartbeat and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully it made you think, well, I don't want to ever crash ever again. Right. Next time I go around there, I'm going to brake better. So from a personal point of view, I'm always getting to do other genres of game.
That's great.
The racing experience.
I've never talked to a racing designer before. That's fascinating, between that and the track design tied to characters. It's amazing how much thought goes into that I never even considered.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, do you have 10 minutes if the audience has questions? Okay.
Quick fire.
All right, you guys know good and well, if you want to call in and talk live, you can. In the meantime, does Andy have a Twitter I can follow, says Rob the Mod?
Yeah, I'm trying to amalgamate them all under the same name, but it's at Real Andy Tudor, because there's a far more talented Andy Tudor who makes a book of paper planes that you can create. So
okay,
he's got the normal one. Yeah.
And I will put it in the about below this. Okay, was the game made under crunch, and how did the team keep up morale?
Not under crunch. I mean, obviously during the latter stages of it, COVID became a thing,
right?
And there was concern around that, and obviously we knew way in advance upcoming movies, so we knew well in advance about the Hobbs and Shaw movie. We knew well in advance about Fast 9, and we knew plot points that were going to be in there,
right? And
therefore we wanted to make sure that we threaded a lot of background story details and future things together where possible. That's why we had Brian's Camaro in there, because it was our way of passing the torch in a way to like the new crew, to Vienna and Cam, and that was like that was the most respectful way we could think of carrying on Paul's legacy from the old days, finding a car at the bottom of
Was there any thought of bringing him in? I mean, I know he's not, never.
It's too early.
Okay.
It's too early.
Okay. Got it.
Firstly, his character wouldn't have fit any particular plot point or character arc that we wanted to tell in the game. And also, it was too early. He wasn't in, Furious, Fate of the Furious. And,
okay.
I'll leave it there.
Fair enough. Okay. So someone's asking, did you guys ever think about making it purely multiplayer? Was it always a single and multi, or?
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is because you never know, as we obviously know, how many people are going to jump online. There is a perception potentially that online is this scary place where you go on there and like everyone's flaming and everyone's shouting down the headset, and you're not really confident in your own skills just yet, so you tend to steer away, and you'd rather have somewhere to practice first and get those skills up before jumping online, all that kind of stuff. And we know from other games that have launched with solely multiplayer formats,
Right.
and without a story mode, then that's the first thing everyone kind of complains about and stuff. For our particular audience, we knew that they loved the movies, that they knew, they were able to sit back with a bucket of popcorn and watch a linear story, and therefore the game is 2 movies long. It's like watching 2 movies back to back. It's a palatable amount. It's not a 40-hour epic, kind of thing. So we knew we wanted to tell a story because that's primarily the format our target audience enjoys fast stuff currently.
Right.
And then we knew that multiplayer is obviously where you then go to show off and brag about things and show off your skills and buy DLC for and play forevermore, that kind of thing. So it was always that kind of split, a short story which fit the kind of people who like to watch the movies only, and then multiplayer to really peacock your skills.
What would you feel about, like, to me, I love Game Pass. I think Game Pass is awesome for developers, for creatives. This is a game I think that would find absolute love on Game Pass because it's no barrier of entry, and you don't have to worry about, well, I spent $60 on Last of Us 2 and that looks better than this. It's just, it gets right to the meat of it. Is that something that, would you as a developer on this game, if you were to hear this was coming to something like Game Pass or PS Now, because there's a lot of people in the audience that are like, Game Pass is terrible for developers and stuff like this. I'm curious, would you feel good about that or bad about that?
So I can only really say from the perspective of a player.
Yeah.
There's games like Yakuza, which I'm ashamed to say I've never played, even though I've wanted to for many years. I've always wanted to jump in, and as soon as I see it on my PlayStation Plus, monthly subscription, it's an instant download.
Right.
And it lets me jump in without the risk of thinking, oh god, it's $60, or okay, it's down in price a bit to 40. Like, even 40 is like a little bit too much for me. When it's free in inverted commas, it's a no-brainer. And then I jump in and I go, oh my god, it's brilliant! Like, what a fantastic game! I wish I'd played it earlier. That kind of thing. So things like Game Pass, things like going on the Epic Game Store and getting a free game every month, things like PlayStation Plus, like, would be fantastic. I am not involved in any of that, so again, no clickbait,
of course,
headlines and quotes from me on that stuff. But
you would like it as a human, okay, got it.
As a human, yes.
Right. If it was up to you, says George, would you have kept the movie-like cutscenes the way they are in the final, or would you have tried to avoid cutscenes unless you can make them? This is his better quality.
So it's a bit of again, we'd never really done cutscenes before. I myself had, and I hired people who had worked on Mass Effect and like I'd done all the characters for, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption and things like that. We'd hired the best people because we knew we had to hit the ground running, and we also knew that all the actors that we were portraying were top quality Hollywood talent, and therefore there are certain things that come with that, like approvals and all that kind of stuff. So we knew we couldn't miss here. We had to get them as good as possible on this stuff. When it came to how we were going to do the exposition of story, a very early version of the game had a lot more kind of Persona 5 style cardboard cutout like dialogue stuff in there, because we wanted you to be driving and be listening to this dialogue as it was going along. I think I called them portrait cutscenes at the same time, because they're popping up speech bubbles and that, and it was like, you're in a semi-realistic looking world in crazy cars which at least look semi-realistic or as realistic as they could be and things like that, and then you were going to have these almost cartoon-esque like pop-ups happening, and it just didn't feel right. So what we ended up doing is the GTA 5 style. You're driving and it's just like Ace Combat, like constant chatter on the radio happening, and then we limited down the as I said earlier, the cutscenes to purely just emotion stuff. So
Right.
nothing. You probably noticed that nothing.
There's no action.
No action
Right.
happened in cutscenes because we wanted to, one, put the action with you, but with the behind the pad, and then secondly, because obviously action cutscene stuff were very difficult for us to do, because we've not done them ever before. It's it's
was it performance capture or
yes,
okay,
yeah. So everything was mocap. All the voice recording sessions were done in LA. Oh, actually, around the world actually, LA, Vancouver, London. With all obviously the main cast and stuff like that, who are all fantastic, by the way. And yeah, we had all the right people, all the right mocap was done, all the right recording was done at Shepperton Studios and Pinewood Studios here in England, like
right.
with people who have done it all before,
right.
know what they're doing, all that kind of stuff. And still, obviously, we were trying to make an hour's worth of cutscenes from nothing. So the tool set, as you probably know, the tool change, the pipelines, the export tools, getting it all right, getting the lighting right, all that kind of stuff. It's a layering process.
Right.
And yeah, of course, it's a lot of work. Could we have done it differently? Maybe with rose tinted glasses, maybe.
Right.
But at the time, it was, you do the driving, you do the exciting stuff, and then you pause for a minute, you get stock of where you are, you get informed of like what the next what the reason is for you doing the next missions and stuff like that, and you get the emotion across of like, oh my god, Roman's been kidnapped or whatever, like we need to go and rescue him, and then boom, you're off to the races, and then you go and do it. So it was the right and only way of doing those particular cutscenes.
Fair enough. Okay, 3 fast rapid questions and we'll let you go. I appreciate your time, man.
I can stay, it's fine.
Oh, okay, so you're giving up your Friday night. So was split screen ever...
It's not like I've got anywhere to go.
Well, so. That's true. Was split screen ever planned? Nash wants to know.
We always talk about it. Split screen, did we think about it specifically for this one? I don't think we did, no, because we wanted you to be able to hot swap between the characters.
Which was awesome, yeah.
Like, what was that? I think it was Need for Speed Carbon that had done it with your wingmen. So that idea of having wingmen, because it's all about family, you know, the movies, right?
Yep.
So we wanted you to work as a team to be able to accomplish things. Split screen wasn't in there at the time then, because at the time a lot of the missions required sequential things to happen as opposed to simultaneous things to happen. So it wasn't like you and me could go, right, you fire your rockets and I'll fire the magnet beam or whatever it was. And we'll get through this mission together. It was more like, right, I need to do my bit as Letty and then switch to you as Dom and do his bit. So it was always sequential, and therefore split screen wasn't really needed in story. And then in multiplayer, of course, it's 3 versus 3 versus 3, and therefore it felt more like a kind of MOBA type affair where everyone's on the headset, everyone's choosing their team composition and their gadgets and cars and all that kind of stuff and working together that way, as opposed to 2 people being on the couch and then 1 person being online that way. So it didn't quite fit there. So I don't think
and plus with streaming too, it's hard. I mean, if you're streaming off the disc into the RAM, you're basically doing that with 2 screens. I mean, we tried that with some of the stuff we did, and it's not as easy. So there was a question I wanted to get. Jay the Destroyer says, have you tried Destruction All-Stars, and what do you think of it?
It's on my, if I can bring my Steam up, you'd see it's actually on there. There's a few. There's the game that the Burnout team created as well afterwards. Total, I can't remember. I'm going to get killed for this in the comments, aren't I? But it's another Destruction Crash something.
Wreckfest?
No, not Wreckfest. No, it's another one. It's a really, really, really high speed game where the thrill is riding on the edge. Someone in the comments will be shouting out.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah,
you are riding right on the very edge, a bit like the Burnout games, and then the thrill comes from like very, very narrowly missing everything, and then boom, you died, and you're almost like it's the release of endorphins. Like, oh, okay, I died, but actually, it was actually quite fun. I can't remember what it's called, but no, it's on my list, unfortunately. I've played Wreckfest as well.
Loved Wreckfest. Wreckfest was the shit. It was great. Okay, so let me ask you one more question. And I've seen this a couple of times in the chat, but it's a question for me, so remember that.
Oh, okay.
Melissa Benoist's phone number, that is something you can hook me up with, or did you guys actually interview her and audition her, or you were just thinking about her?
No, we were looking, we were looking at a lot of actors, and for me, Melissa came up because she's obviously in Supergirl and she's fantastic and leads that show. And then I saw her in
She was in
it's the movie
Whiplash.
about and it's the movie about the Boston bomb
Oh,
marathon.
yeah. I know the with Marky
Yeah,
Mark or Mark Wahlberg.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And she's in that, and I was like, oh wow, I never saw that side of her
Yeah.
before. And when we were thinking of Cam being this kind of like chatty person, but then could also almost have this darker side, I thought, oh, fantastic! Like Melissa could actually do it. And we did the motion capture in Vancouver, where of course they filmed Supergirl and Flash
right.
and stuff. I was like, oh, this could be it. And then like I don't think we pursued her because Asia came along. We were like,
okay.
oh my god, like Billions is fantastic and winning awards. Star Trek is out there winning awards, and actually these two people like bounce off each other just like Dom and Brian do in their first early movies. So
right.
Easy choice.
Fair enough. Okay. I'm not asking. Well, I will only ask this question, but not because. Okay. Somebody, Game Day Sam says, has Andy played Twisted Metal? I don't care if you played Twisted Metal or not, but the reason it fascinates
the original,
me,
yes.
yeah, the reason it fascinates me is Twisted Metal has always been incredibly, when it was successful back in the day, very successful in the States, very successful like in Australia and South America. But in Europe, it was just always a dog. It never connected with the audience. And I always equate it to like white.
I remember the artwork very, very clearly, though. So I don't know.
I'm not. I mean, well, the reason I'm asking is like to me, Fast and the Furious eats at the same restaurant that Twisted Metal does. Obviously, they're a much bigger franchise, but it's very garage band, rough around the edges, fucking crazy, go nuts. I'm actually, until I saw that question, I didn't really think about. That it's interesting to talk to European folks who are like, we're into Fast and the Furious. I mean, is that a big brand over there as well?
Oh, it's huge. I mean,
That's
I think
amazing.
when we did press for the game, I very clearly remember going to see the first at the movies, and that was at a time in England and I think worldwide when everyone was putting neons under their car and just
the car culture part. I get that.
And
part.
it was more about the show, the show than the go. So it was all like crazy racing stripes and people tinting their windows and all that kind of stuff. And I remember seeing that movie and coming out going, wow, that was amazing. And then hearing people screaming out of the the car park, and we did it ourselves. We're not blameless on that kind of stuff. And then Fast and Furious, even though the movies originally was set in LA and Miami, now they are international. So it's Cuba and Dominican Republic and London and Thailand and things.
But
like that,
they've gotten away from that car culture, like you said, and they've become Marvel movies, and that's the surprising part to me that Europe seems to still go, dude, fucking, we're in. I love that. I mean, that's great. That's fucking great. I love it.
Absolutely. They're summer blockbusters. So they're just as popular or even more popular now than they ever have been.
They're wonderful. Have you seen 9? Because I know it's done. I'm assuming it's done, but they can't release it.
I might have.
Okay. And you're still a fan of the franchise. That's all I need to know. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
I mean, Hobbs and Shaw was stupid, but it was fucking awesome. I loved it. I loved Hobbs and Shaw. So that's great.
Yeah.
That's fucking
great.
Like
Hobbs and Shaw was an interesting one because we knew. So we were always told, when the characters get in their cars, that's like Iron Man putting his suit of armor on. That's like Captain America grabbing his shield. As soon as they get in the cars, it's game on, right? And that's why in our game as well, it was like you're in the car, you're doing crazy stuff, all that kind of thing. When it came to Hobbs and Shaw, obviously they were based off characters who were more famous for doing things out of the car, than in. Jason Statham, martial arts character. The Rock.
Everything.
Walking mountain.
Right.
So we knew it was going to be slightly different, like all along. And then, we were thinking, do we put Hobbs and Shaw in the game? And we were thinking, well,
that would have been cool. That would have been cool.
Yeah, but for fan fan wish fulfillment. You'd want to be able to get out and start punching things, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, no, we'll leave that for a sequel. You know,
okay.
out of the car kind of stuff. And then when it came out, obviously there's quite a good mix of on foot, you know, punching stuff, and then jumping into cars and doing the crazy things. But of course, the cars in this respect were giant missile
that was
from Chernobyl.
I have watched every Fast and the Furious movie, but I don't have the encyclopedic knowledge that you clearly do. I've never seen them chase a fucking missile, but it feels exactly Fast and the Furious. Was that you guys, or was that in a movie?
No. So the way that I approached all the set pieces in the game was we literally wrote down all the major set pieces from every single movie.
Okay.
And then we said, right, how do we remix these? How do we take the essence of this and do it in a brand new way and make it feel reminiscent of the original, but also with a brand new thing? So of course we do the chasing after a truck thing.
Oh, yeah.
You're not trying to grab VCRs off it though. You know, you're trying to get someone onto it and then like take control of the truck.
Right.
You know, when we do the train sequence, we're not trying to get on board and get these amazing, you know, silver sports cars off it. We're trying to get on there and stop a bad guy. You know, if we do the vault sequence, it was like, how do we redo that? We do it in the port with like this great big doomsday device.
Right.
And then we were like, how do we beat a submarine?
That was the build. Okay, yeah. Got it. Okay.
So we had a wiki page of what are the biggest man-made things, you know, vehicles, and there was, I mean, we shouldn't spoil these. Maybe these would be in a sequel, you know, but there's a battleship which contains other boats, or it's a boat for boats.
That's awesome.
So boats go inside, almost like, it sounds like a James Bond film.
Yeah, it does, but that's what these movies are.
Yeah. And then we were like, well, what else can it be? And of course, the whole of the plot and the missile at the end came from real world events.
Okay.
At the time of writing the plot, it was when Kim Jong-un was saying he had missiles that could be launched and hit America.
Okay.
At the time, and we were all a bit kind of worried about that, and we were thinking, oh my god, yeah, like, and would the early warning system be able to defend America from that? And that's where the plot came from. Like, what if there was a thing which essentially turned that off, so that if they did launch a strike, you wouldn't even know until it had actually hit, you know, American soil.
Right.
So that's where the Nightshade 2.0 Eclipse device came from in the game. And the second thing was SpaceX was also big news at the time with I think it was the Saturn rocket and the Dragon. What car it was, like, whatever. Whatever. Yeah. And of course, you know, SpaceX are these kind of free-for-all space rockets that, like, not NASA needs to make. No,
right.
Other companies can now make these things that can go to the moon and go into orbit and back and things like that, or go to Mars, as Elon is talking about.
Did you see the one the other day that blew up?
I missed it.
No,
I watched the one 2 weeks ago that blew up.
No, there was one 2 days ago that did a flip, and it was great. And then they landed, and they thought, we did it, and then it was awesome. But anyway, yeah. So that's where the missile came from.
Yeah, so the two things came from, like, we need an early warning system that can stop, you know, that can turn off America's strategic defense initiative. We need something to get it up into space.
Right.
And we were like, we've got it now. Because a rocket, like a SpaceX rocket versus a submarine from the last movie.
Right.
We were like, well, how are you going to do that? And of course, the joke is that people think that the Fast franchise is going to go to space. Yeah.
Right.
The fans are all thinking, well, where is this going to lead? They're all thinking Dom's going to be in his muscle car on the side of a thing. So we played into that, and we said, right, we're going to have a situation where a rocket is taking off, and the fans are going to go, oh my god, are they doing it? Are we going into space at this point? And then, of course, Dom
and then he just kind of goes, collapses. That was awesome.
And then now you're, rather than being chased by the submarine, you're now chasing the rocket. And
I loved it. I was a great finale.
We've got an ending here.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely phenomenal. Michael Bay drops $1, and he just joined the club. I don't know if he's got a question for you. I'll give him a second, but I love that it's
Michael Bay. Wow.
I love that it's Michael Bay. This is a Michael Bay game.
You already made Split Second.
This is oh, I know, that's true. I'll tell you what. So you mentioned a couple of times a sequel. My assumption is now that you guys are with EA, And this is, I mean, I guess Bandai doesn't have the rights. Universal has the rights. So I guess they could still go to any other publisher. I mean, and you haven't announced a sequel, but I'm assuming a sequel is probably not happening if you're with EA.
I cannot talk about sequels.
Fair enough. Well, let's just put it this way. If you guys can't make it and they want an old game developer, that would bring me out of second retirement. If they're like, you get to work on a Fast and the fucking Furious.
For one last job.
Oh, you goddamn right. I would love it. I would love it.
Like Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon.
That's exactly right. Too old for this shit, but not too old for that shit. That's awesome. Okay. All right, we got here and there, and I'm going to stay on the chat and talk to some of you new members. Nicholas Paul, thank you so much. Michael Bay, thank you so much. But Andy, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I don't know. You seem to handle, reviews better than I do, and that's wonderful. But I can just tell you, for whatever it's worth, boy, what a game. I loved it. I'm sorry that the team has gotten, raked over the coals for this fucking thing in the reviews, but I get that's not who you made it for so who cares? But it's a real shame a lot more people don't really get what this is for, because this is a joy, and I thank you, and I thank you for your time, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah, well, all I can say is, give it a chance, as you say, at Beyond Gamefly. I am sure. I'm sure there'll be price promotions, things like that happen in the future. And please remember, though, there is, multiplayer there, which a lot of people are really enjoying. Like, there's nothing more satisfying.
I'm gonna play it this weekend. I didn't know it was still active because I went on like at 2 a.m. when I finished it, which was like a Tuesday night, and nobody was on. I'm like, oh, I guess the multiplayer's dead. But it's great to hear there's actually life to it.
Yeah, there's nothing better than just having a friend or a buddy on there and shouting out like, cover me, I'm getting hit by the turrets and stuff like that, and you're in a bulletproof car that can take the damage, and I'm in like a car which is trying to hack something, and we're all trying to work as a team. There's nothing more satisfying than that, and especially when they're all people from all the way around the world speaking the common language of pulling off illegal heists.
Right.
It's great, so yeah.
Very cool. All right. Andy, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, absolutely.
See you then. Right. Bye-bye.
Okay, 1 second, fellas. I know you can still hear me. Let me bring up the camera. Well, that was Andy. What a good fella. What a good chap. I sure do appreciate that. It's actually Michael Batty has joined, not Michael Bay. Sorry, pal. I'm in that headspace. Let me bring up my camera here real quick so we can chat for a moment. Do I have it? I may have to reset this fucking thing. All right, well, I guess I'll talk to you guys as Batman then, because I don't have the, I'd have to restart the stream. But anyway, there is Andy Tudor, DJ, game designer, game director, good people, man. That was a fun chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I get it. The game's not for everyone. It was really interesting to hear him say that they knew going in they were going after a very different audience than the people who were posting on Reset Era or NeoGAF or writing for Polygon or IGN. And so I do hope, and I understand why he couldn't, really share financials, of course. I do hope that they did find a big enough audience to make it worth their while, because my echo chamber of the internet suggests that this is a game that people just did not like at all. Like, I can't even post positive things about it without getting people telling me I'm a fucking moron, so fuck them. Great game. Give it a fucking try. In the meantime, I will be back later today with either a proper Gabbin' and Games talking about the news of the day, if there's a lot of news today. If there's not a lot of news today, I will be back with a stream video game plan sometime later today. Rob the Mod wants to know, if I get it on PS4, do you want to do a multiplayer game stream? You goddamn right. Hang on. You goddamn right I do. I would love to do that. If we could get it, I guess it's 3v3v3. So if we could get you and me and one more member of the team, that would be fucking fantastic. That would be excellent. By the way, let me remind you, all members tomorrow is the start of the Mortal Kombat 11 tournament on PS4. I'll be putting up details later today, but the gist of it is it starts at noon. And you got to be a member to enter, but anybody can watch. And yeah, so that's the gist of it. And then there'll be stuff going on. I'll be posting some shit later today about what's happening. George says, if the game goes down to $5, I'll buy it. It's a good game, George. I don't know what to tell you, you fucking snob. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you guys Nicholas, I suck too. Nicholas says he's going to enter the Mortal Kombat thing. I'm terrible at it. But, you know, the good news is Bacon Magma, who's probably the best player, is currently not a member. So unless he joins at any tier, there you go. Okay, fellas, that's it. I'll see you later today in the stream. If not, I'll see you next time. Rob the Mod, RPG I saw in here. Thank you guys very, very much for hanging out today and having a conversation and giving the game a chance. And I will see you guys